Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's July 4th to 13th of the Calgary Stampede, the greatest outdoor rodeo event in North America. I don't know, the seating capacity for the rodeo itself is only 17,000 people and 8,000 in stand-up. The rodeo is a great event for Alberta economy. It brings in about 200 million for the city and 300 million for the province. There's a lot of speculation as to its expandability. In our podcast here today, I'm going to talk about the Saddledome, which is an iconic world structure that is renowned for Calgary, the Stampede, and the Olympics of '88. Everybody around the world recognizes it. It's going to be blown up, not next year, but the following year, and going to be replaced with a complex for hotel rooms. The joke of that is they're spending $350 million to build a hotel on the grounds of the Saddledome. It was just announced last week that there's a $1.2 billion hotel complex privately close by going to be built. I'm not sure if there's enough business to warrant the luxury hotel for the special guest on the Stampede ground. The contention I have was that the Saddledome is a historic site, a heritage site, and should be protected from being blown up. One of the things that the city council didn't do was announce that the actual Saddledome building is worth about $600 million. So they're blowing up a $600 million building to put a $320 million hotel complex on it. That's sort of not a very good idea. But where I have issue is that they claim that there's going to be more concerts. There's going to be no more concerts. The only way we're getting more concerts is keeping the Saddledome there and holding more concerts because the hockey is held over in the new stadium. What's your take on that, Cal Greedy?
I think the new stadium's going to hold less seats than the old one. So how is the old one? How is the old one not good enough? And when you look at, they're talking about the special boxes that they'll have at camera level halfway up the stadium instead of at the top like in the Saddledome, and it's all about the money. They're going to be charging
Luxury
big money.
suites.
Yeah, luxury suites, big money for the luxury suites, just to keep your hockey team in town. So
that's why the hotel complex where the Saddledome, they want these luxury suites for the rich boys. So they're right close to their hockey game. They get $1 million suites on taxpayers' backs. I don't think that's very fair when the Saddledome is an iconic heritage structure for Calgary. It's recognized around the world. But one of the things I have is that I find it slow quitting of the rodeo concept of the Stampede. When you remove the Saddledome building from the Stampede grounds and put a big hotel there, you changed it to look like any other exhibition in North America, and that will slowly take away from the draw of the rodeo itself. If you were truly promoting the rodeo as the greatest outdoor event, wouldn't you expand the seating around the Saddledome? Stadiums in the U.S. seat up to 120,000 people. The Calgary Stampede seats 17,000, and if you let them stand around, you can add 8,000 more. Now, the Stampede Association should be expanding the seats. You could easily have 50,000 to 60,000 seats by expanding into where closer to the Saddledome is and keep the Saddledome as part of the overall image and picture of the Stampede. And I noticed on the Stampede site, they don't really have much to do promoting the Indian Village or Elbow River Camp, as they say. And one of the best events at the Stampede is the Elbow River Camp. It's a very cultural and significant part of the Stampede, and they started using the Saddledome for their powwow dances, and that's been a great addition to the Stampede. And one of the things I contend is when you remove the Saddledome building, there's going to be no room for the powwow dancing in there and cultural aspects. So I don't know. To me, it's a contentious issue. It's been gaslighted. People have been lied to by city council. They haven't been given the full facts, and the demolition based on lies of a building that's a heritage site. That building was paid for by Alberta taxpayers for a third. It was paid for by federal taxpayers. That means all of Canada paid for the building of the Saddledome. So all of Canada should have a say in whether it's blown up or not. It's a heritage building. And they pay that federally, we paid a third of the cost, and the city only paid a third of the cost for that building. So what gives the city the right to destroy a government-funded building without consultation to the actual people that paid for it? That's Albertans and all of Canada. It is a Canadian heritage site the minute federal taxes are used to pay for the construction of it. For the 1988 Olympics, it was indirectly funded for that purpose. And there's my contention on that issue.
When I went to the Calgary Stampede, I had a grandstand ticket. I literally couldn't see anything. All of the entertainment was taking place in front of the reserve stands where the corral is, where they stage the horses. So like I was half a mile away, and I was really disappointed with the sight lines. Now, I imagine they could do what they do in a lot of football games, is put a big screen up there, double the size of the stadium, and give everybody a decent view, as well as having the feel of the live rodeo. But as far as the view is concerned, I found it totally deficient. It costs a lot of money to get in, and I couldn't see anything.
If they utilized all the land around, they could double or triple the seating capacity. They could lower the price to go to the rodeo, and they could put better staging so everybody could see, like you said, with better full screen TV. They do have some screens in there now, probably since you were there, and it is quite visible. But if they were truly promoting the rodeo concept and not a hidden agenda to minimize and get rid of the rodeo, you would see the expansion around the rodeo. And that's one of my contentious issues. And that's why I feel that they intentionally want to blow up and sneak in the blowing up of the Saddledome, because it is a very unique concept. I mean, they even say they can't repair the roof economically. Well, it's flaking of concrete on the edge of the roof. Any good tile setter know you can probably fix that with a expansion joint and some porcelain weatherproof tile and fix it. So that's another issue that they've been lying to the general people about, is that the roof is repairable and it's not a major cost on a $600 million building, because you repair the roof, the building's worth $800 million. Pretty good investment versus just blowing it up. And if you add the building blow up into the cost of the new stadium, you're talking over $2 billion. And the only people benefiting are the ones with the zero payment lease for the building. As far as I understand, it's a loan repayment that they claim is the lease for the building. And that means money leaving the local economy that shouldn't be. The taxpayers, if you're going to use taxpayer money to build it, taxpayers should generate the revenue to offset it. And this myth that capitalists can run things better than private, corporations of the city is ridiculous. Look at the power company owned by the city. It generates great revenue and pays its employees astronomically. What's your take on whether it was gaslighting on the Saddledome deal, or is it a valid building for a heritage designation?
I can't follow that it's beyond my scope of news, but I can tell you from experience that if you really want to see a, a rodeo up close and personal, you have to go to a rodeo like the Hand Hills Rodeo. The Hand Hills Rodeo is the longest continuous running rodeo in North America. Started back in 1917, and the word, of course, is continuous. You can
Yeah,
you can lean against the fence and watch it up close and personal. And once you've done that, it's very different than going to a big show like the Calgary Stampede. The
yeah,
Cowboys work hard, right?
yeah.
They treat their livestock with respect, and they uh,
Well, that's
the one
it's
year
a
the one year I was there, the Bulls won every fight. Like it
yeah.
wasn't
Well, I like
nobody
that.
nobody lasted 7 seconds. And
No,
and the thing is, it's a community event. You take your tent or your trailer and you pull into the little stampede ground there, and they've got the weekend, and it's a very folksy place. Everybody is friendly. Again, if you really want to see a true
I agree.
rodeo, go to the Hand Hills Rodeo or one of the other smaller ones around
One
town.
of the best rodeos, if you want to see the exact same cowboys and chuck wagons and everything, you go to the Ponoka Stampede. It's one of the best because you're right there. You're right at track level. It seats 150 to 300 people, and you get the full experience of the rodeo. You can stand right on the fence and get the horse shit thrown right in your face off the hooves of the horses racing by. And the chuck wagon is one of the best events ever. I remember going to the chuck wagons at Calgary Stampede as a teenager, and we were in the barns with the bowling rig from Grand Prairie. Friends were married to the Bolins, so they got us backseat passes to the rodeo, and that was one of the most exciting events. And I remember that to this day. It was great, and it was all hands on. The horses were well taken care of. We were well taken care of, and we got to be right around the horses in the barns. It was an experience you should be for everyone, and not the elitist, oh, you got to pay an arm and a leg to get in and can't see anything attitude that's going on with the Calgary Stampede now. And that's why I think they should be tripling the seating capacity and making access so that people can actually see the race. Ponoka has the perfect stampede as far as I'm concerned. The other issue I wanted to bring up about the stampede was the stampede is supposed to be a Canadian event, and now that we're being threatened to be taken over by the U.S., maybe it's time we started making it truly a Canadian rodeo and not allowing the Americans who come up here, and most of the winners are Americans, taking the profits out of the local economy from the stampede. The local rodeo experts don't have a chance against the Americans that have rodeos all year round down in the States. I think maybe the Stampede should look at saying, we got to put a tax on the winnings of the Americans coming here to get our prize money. The prize money makes a difference to the local rodeo scene, because that prize money could go a long ways to improving the quality of the rodeos with local talent. And that's something I think that should be dealt with under this tariff. And, trying to take over Canada attitude, well, maybe we should just give the rodeo back to our local cowboys and cowgirls and say,
Well,
it's a local event.
I wouldn't be the greatest show on earth if it
I don't know, we
was.
got some pretty damn good cowboys and
And
cowgirls
Corey,
here. They give a run to the Americans, and
they were talking about some of the country rodeos like Hardisty, Cochrane,
yeah,
Okotoks, Nanton. There's a lot of rodeos where I bet you they don't attract international
yeah, but they
competition.
don't pay out the same amount of money. And if you look at who's going to the rodeos, it's usually they wouldn't know the difference between an American cowboy and a Canadian cowboy, or Canadian cowgirl and an American cowgirl. So it's not going to change the outcome of the rodeo. The quality of the people participating is astronomical. They're great sportsmen, and I think we should be looking at making it truly a Canadian rodeo. And because of that, because of Trump, I think this is the time to make it part. It is a cultural event for Canada. It's a cultural event for Alberta, and it is a cultural event for Calgary. We can't, get rid of the fact that Alberta is based off of farming community just because the city people want to, or PETA wants to get rid of it. It's part of our heritage. Until farms are gone and ranches are gone, it should be protected as a Canadian cultural event. So that's my take on it, but I'm not always right, but I do feel as a fifth generation Albertan, we should start making it more cultural oriented and start promoting it versus saying that we're going to design downtown Calgary and our exhibition like all American exhibitions are. That's not Canadian, it's not cultural, and you're going to see the deterioration of the rodeo the minute that Saddledome is blown up and a elite hotel for the rich is going to be put down there. You're not going to see the Cowboys from Alberta going to be able to afford a hotel suite in that new hotel complex, so it's not going to benefit them. And I think expanding the rodeo grounds and the seating would benefit the local rodeo circuit even more. And limiting, we don't have to limit the American cowboys and cowgirls from participating, but we sure definitely should tax them on their winnings so that they're not taking that money out of the local economy and sending it down to the States, because it doesn't contribute anything up here if it leaves. But that's another issue, I guess. First, we got to save the Saddledome from being blown up, so that's my object.
Maybe the saddle, the Calgary Association there can get a 200 or 500-pound bomb from the Americans and make it a real quick, spectacular show, and take the entire building out.
With fireworks and everything, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be critical about the people who are concerned about the animals, because animal welfare, of course, is important. But for the most part, these people make a living off their livestock.
Well, they look after, that's their bread and butter, the livestock. So they get treated better than a lot of people. $1 million horse is looked after more than the people we see on the streets. We give out a lot more to protect the horses and welfare of cattle than we do to a lot of humans. So I don't think you have to really go far to say that the animals are well taken care of. If you harm your animals, you're harming your potential income, and that's not really what it's about.
Well, I think it's typical of our society today too, that we care more about the livestock at the Calgary Stampede than we care about the people in, for example, Gaza, where they just dropped a 500-pound bomb on a cafe and killed a whole whack of civilians, and nobody says anything.
You get more complaint by PETA on horses that are trying to make a living off of, the cowboys are trying to make a living off the horses, and the horses are bred to run. A horse runs all day long. That's why by letting them run, they're happy. A horse is happy running because that's what their instincts are, is to run. If they didn't run, their hooves would grow so big that they died. And we don't run our horses enough, so we have to shoe them and groom them to make sure their hooves stay in shape. So it's I think a over-exaggerated thing that the rodeo isn't good for the animals participating. About the only one I don't like, and I don't like it, is roping calves. I think that is a bit cruel, and there's really no need for it. It's not a sporting event that I like watching, a calf getting its neck snapped back at full run. That one I'm pretty sure I would say PETA's maybe correct on. But it is a skill that you do need to have as a rancher. You have to be able to rope a calf and for branding and giving it its shots and stuff. So it does have a valid place, but I'm not sure in the rodeo is a place for it. I'd be happy if it was taken out of the rodeo thing, but bulldogging and everything else I'm fine with. I love bulls. I mean, they beat up on the cowboys. Like, who's going to ride a bull? You don't see me wanting to walk out in the pasture and jump on a bull. You might see me walking out in the pasture, jump on a horse's back, but not a bull. But so I enjoy watching bull riding, especially if the bull wins.
Like I've watched, cattle roundups, and when they calve, when they rope a calf, usually they have them in a pen already, and they're selecting the one they want. The animal's not on the run, so it doesn't get that neck jerk.
Yeah,
but
that's the problem.
If you look at the complaints about cruelty to animals, how do we ever have cage fighting? Where these people sit on people and pound their ears, and kick them in the head, and it's just bad, I think, for children to see that kind of entertainment, and I think it's a lot healthier for people to see what kind of tough living a lot of these people make when they are out on the ranch. When you do have to rope cattle,
have their eyes open. It's a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week work, and it's tough work. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do what a lot of ranchers done even in my prime. I love the outdoors, but ranching is even farming with modern equipment is still a 7 days a week job, and you still got to be hands on. So these skills in the rodeo are good to help promote ranching and farming and utilization of their livestock. Like I said, the only one I have exception to is the actual roping of calves. I mean, that is not a necessary skill set to develop, and it's really hard on the animals. The roping skills, yeah, that's great roping, but you could develop other exhibitions for roping that, like.
Where the guy jumps off the horse at full gallop and has to land on the cow and turn the cow over and tie up his feet. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, it's crazy, but it doesn't hurt the animal because it's not a sudden stop. The guy's going with them till they both stop, right? So.
But if anybody's gone to a rodeo, what they would see in the smaller rodeos where you can actually see how the animals are treated in the background. They'll bring them in by a transport vehicle, they'll separate them, and the rodeos that I've gone to, they rate the bulls and the livestock based on their past performance, and it's their performance in these smaller rodeos that gives them the rating. And when they get to the Calgary Stampede, they know when it's a draw, they know whether they've got a tough one or an easier one. They know whether he goes up and around or drops his head, and it's a real sport. And if you watch the animal, as soon as he's gotten the cowboy off his back, he turns it right around to the gate and walks right back to the
exactly
right
what
back.
to do.
Sure, and on the odd one,
and when they're not in the rodeo, they're spoiled because they're so valuable. The rodeos want these livestock in there, and they pay good money to the owners of the livestock to have them in there. It's very rare that you have abuse of your income earner. Like, you don't want to abuse something that's bringing you income. I mean, there's going to be exceptions where owners might be abusive, but that's fettered out by the associations and monitoring and what have you anyway. So, I don't think it's a real ongoing problem. It's just rarely that happens.
One of the people around the rodeo that really takes some abuse though are the clowns.
I had a couple friends who were clowns.
I got lots of friends who are clowns, but none of them are in the rodeo. But what these characters have to stand right at the gate and stop the animal from trampling, a dislodged rider. To do that, I've seen them grab the tail of a bull and almost get gored, and they have to be awful quick, and they have to be
They're
awfully
very
brave.
athletical, they're very strong, and they're very fast. And it takes a lot of training. You just don't become a rodeo clown, and the cowboys and cowgirls, they want protection. You're there for protecting them at all costs, and that's your job. And there's ways of taking hits from animals and stuff, and you learn all that when you become a rodeo clown, according to my friends years, decades ago. But they are one of the bravest people you'll ever meet. They know that they are protecting the lives of the people in the rodeo, and you would see a lot more deadly incidences if they weren't there. And that's, I don't, we need to give them credit for their job, and they really are undervalued and underappreciated. I think the rodeo should have an award for the best performance of a rodeo clown and give them the credence that they should get. They should get credit for their job at each rodeo. Have a presentation, a prize for the best rodeo clown that did his job. And I think that's something that I've never seen at a rodeo, and I always thought should be at a rodeo. Is these guys deserve as much credit as the cowboys themselves or cowgirls themselves, and they're not getting that recognition. So I'd like to see that in the rodeo. Maybe from this conversation it will happen.
Apparently they like to call themselves barrelmen instead of rodeo clowns.
Yeah, I like rodeo clowns. They're more appropriate.
and the guy that sits in the barrel has to be crazy. I mean that's almost like going over Niagara Falls in a barrel.
Yeah,
you're sitting there. Well, you're sitting there baiting the bull, to kick the crap out of the barrel. Like it's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah, so I'd like to see, a performance award at each rodeo for the rodeo clowns or barrel inhabitors or whatever you want to call them. But I think they should be some sort of program for that. The other issue at the Stampede that I really take offense to is that we have the rodeo and we have these bands come in, and a lot of bands come in, but they not promoting our Canadian dance. And they have this, they don't provide a proper dance floor at the rodeo. In the Nashville North tent, you're always dancing on asphalt and what have you, and they're doing American dancing, which is American ballroom and Latin American and Texas shuffle stepping, and they won't even play the music of the dance steps that we grew up on here in Canada and are cultural to Canada. And that type of music needs to be promoted more and get away from this disco line dancing that they now call country line dancing. It came out of a movie, 1980, Urban Cowboy. It went from disco duck to country quacks, and it's pushing the fun out of the dances at rodeos. Even the Pinocchio rodeo dances turned that way when the music shifted from the good old fun music that we always promoted and artists to being more Americanized music and less fun to participate. And they got the volume so loud you can't even visit with anybody when you're there. So that's one of my griefs about the rodeo, and that's probably not going to change until they start realizing that Canadian dance has more to offer than American dance ever did. And maybe we should get back to some of our cultural components of what the rodeo and dancing are all about.
If you're talking about dancing, the Hand Hills Rodeo, at the end of every night, of course, they have their local dance and, beer and a band. And I can tell you the Cowboys, when they show up, can hardly walk. So
yeah.
So,
Well, they're
so,
beat
so,
up.
yeah, they're not doing the dancing, but
No.
but at the
Uh,
Stampede this year, does Funny Fest have anything going?
yeah, Funny Fest has some shows on, and it's typical Calgary BS. I mean, they don't support local companies and entertainment very much, and they go with the big promotions. I went to a Funny Fest show opening up the Stampede on Thursday night. There were 6 people there. How pathetic, Calgary. Edmonton would have had a full house. Calgary has really no support for entertainment whatsoever, and I guess that's part of being Cal Greedy. I mean, it's a very greedy place. They really don't support entertainment locally. They'll support, U.S. entertainers coming here. They'll do whatever to outside of Alberta entertainers, but local entertainers seem to be kicked to the curb, especially during Stampede, which is not good. And talking about that, at that Funny Fest, the promoter stated that he knew a person that got blown up by a bomb in Ukraine, and he's alive, but a lot of shrapnel and gauze all from the hip down, and his right arm and chest had some shrapnel. He's going to live, but they're doing a big fundraiser for him with Funny Fest. Tonight there's a show. I don't know if this will get posted in time for it, but they are accepting donations to help cover the hospital costs over in Ukraine for him. And so there are some other events outside of the normal rodeo component that should be participated by visitors to the city of Calgary. And sometimes you just got to search maybe on Eventbrite or other Google searches to see what other activities are going on in Calgary at the same time as Stampede.
Good luck to the Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah.
Hope it's not too hot on that that
Well, it gets
midway.
pretty hot down there, like if it gets 30 above in the city, down on the Stampede grounds where it's all concrete, you get to see the real global warming effect. That concrete reflects the heat. It'll be like 40 degrees down there off the concrete, and that is what global warming is, folks. It's a reflection of heat from concrete. So make sure you take lots of water. I volunteer every year down at Stampede. I've volunteered for over 15 years, I think, for the BMO Kids Pancake Breakfast. And it's a blast volunteering and letting all the kids go see their entertainment on the stage in the grandstand. And like you said, one of the complaints I've had for 15 years is it's really hard to get good seating to watch the show for even the kids. So you'll see the parents eat their pancakes and drink their drinks, but they won't go into the grandstand because of poor line of sight and stuff like that. So maybe it's something the Stampede Association should look at, actually promoting the rodeo more and designing the seating so they got better sight lines. I'll be down there on those days, and I think I'm down there Sunday and Wednesday for volunteering for the family day picnic and then the kids picnic, pancake, whatever you call it. So yeah, it'll be fun. It's crowded, it gets hot, but
You missed the pancake breakfast.
not really.
There's a tradition where everybody seems to have pancake breakfasts for the entire
Yeah.
week. One of the more interesting ones I was invited to was an East Indian temple put on a pancake breakfast, and of course they
Oh
didn't eat
well.
meat. Yeah, so it was eggs and, and pancakes.
Yeah, well, like let's give it a shout out. I'd like to hear in the comments some of the best pancake breakfasts in the city. The two I found was Standing Springs down in East has one of the best pancake breakfasts. I think it's on Friday mornings, second Friday morning. So this one coming up. And the next best one is Stampede Toyota has a great, awesome pancake breakfast. And that's Tuesday mornings. There used to be another one that was just fantastic, and they quit doing it. I forget the name of it, but it was a food supplier, and I wish they'd start doing them again. They were awesome. I like going to some of them where they got bands for the pancake breakfast. You can dance up a storm and burn off those calories of pancakes. So let's do a shout out for comments on where the best Stampede breakfast and the best bands for Stampede breakfast are. Because I love dancing. I like to show up where there's a good band. And you got to let me know where to go, because I haven't had time this year to research where to go for the breakfast.
They actually have a website, stampedebreakfast.ca.
Oh,
And
okay,
it's got a calendar, and the calendar is full of where you can go, and you'll find that the Stampede breakfasts are free. You know, you
there's
don't.
multiple ones every morning. It's finding the best ones is the trick.
Yeah.
So on that note, we'll shut this podcast down. See you at one of the breakfasts. I love eating, so
Well,
I'll
have
be
a
at
good
one or
day.
two.
Subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and please share the video. Don't be afraid to share this commercial with your friends too.